Okay, so if you've ever felt that absolute sinking feeling in your chest while watching a kid just completely glued to a tablet, or if you felt totally overwhelmed trying to manage digital boundaries at home, look, you're definitely not alone. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're diving deep into the very real, often guilt-inducing struggle of children's screen time. We're going to unpack the actual science behind exactly why these screens are so intensely captivating to young minds. But more importantly, we're going to walk through a structured, highly actionable roadmap to help you reclaim their focus. Let's get right into it. So take a look at this. You can almost feel the harsh, captivating blue light pulling this child entirely into a digital trance, right? And then there's the mother observing from the doorway. It's honestly a perfect visual for that incredibly complex mix of utter exhaustion, profound love, and, yeah, deep guilt you might feel when you see your own kid locked into a device like this. We watch them and we know in our gut it's just not ideal for their developing brains, but we're exhausted. It often feels like we've completely run out of options. The device that we originally brought into the house as this super helpful tool for learning, well, it's stealthily morphed into a silent thief, just quietly stealing away their attention and their joy. And I really need you to let this sink in for a second. You are a parent navigating a storm that literally no generation before us had to face. Think about it. Our parents did not have to worry about us smuggling an entire arcade and a movie theater into our beds under the covers. There was no precedent for this. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by screen time, I want to say this loud and clear right now. You are absolutely not a failure. You're a pioneer. You're trying to parent through a massive, unprecedented technological shift, managing devices that were engineered by some of the smartest people on the planet to be as addictive as humanly possible. So before we look at the science and the solutions, we've got to start by giving ourselves a lot of grace and empathy here. You're doing your best in completely unmapped territory. Okay, so transitioning from that emotional reality to the actual underlying science, we need to talk about a foundational concept here, and it's called the dopamine hijack. This is absolutely crucial to understand because it tells us that your child's behavior, the massive tantrums when the tablet gets taken away or that glassy-eyed trance, it's not bad parenting, it's not a bad kid. It's actually a direct physiological response happening right inside their brain. The rapid-fire content they consume on screens, the flashing colors, the instant rewards, the auto-playing videos, it creates a state of chronic overstimulation. Their brains are literally being flooded with dopamine, which is the neurotransmitter linked to pleasure and reward, at a rate that the natural physical world just cannot compete with. To put that into perspective, think of a healthy, calm prefrontal cortex as a sort of command center. It's responsible for focus, impulse control, emotional regulation. It's what lets a child sit still, share a toy, or calm down after getting upset. But under constant digital input, that brain enters a state of high-stress arousal. Those neural connections start running red hot. Effectively, that brilliant little command center is just being muted. They literally lose access to the very part of their brain that helps them regulate their behavior and smoothly transition away from the screen. And here's a point that I think so often gets lost in the broader conversation about screen time. The real tragedy isn't just the hours spent looking at a screen. It's what those hours are replacing. Specifically, we're talking about the erosion of a child's ability to tolerate boredom. Somehow, culturally, we've decided that boredom is this terrible, negative thing that has to be instantly cured with entertainment. But guys, boredom is the exact birthplace of deep imagination. It is the quiet mental space where a plain old cardboard box magically becomes a spaceship, or where they figure out how the physical world actually works. When we constantly pacify them with digital stimulation, we're inadvertently robbing them of the space required for true creativity and deep thinking to flourish. Now, once we realize the impact of this dopamine hijack, our first instinct is usually to just panic and initiate a cold turkey ban, right? Just rip the Band-Aid off, take it all away immediately. But that almost always leads to intense rebellion, screaming matches, and just massive frustration across the board. Because the child's brain is suddenly being starved of this high dopamine it's gotten totally used to. So what's the alternative? It's a connection-first approach. We really want to avoid those harsh, punitive bans. Instead, we reframe our entire strategy around warm, empathetic connection, essentially replacing the cold device with a warm parental presence. So, putting this understanding into real daily action relies on three core pillars of this connection-first strategy. We've got co-regulation, dopamine fasting, and modeling behavior. This is exactly how we transition from feeling helpless to feeling empowered. Let's break down what this first step actually looks like practically in your own living room. All right, so the first pillar, co-regulation, is an absolute game changer.
The rule here is super simple. Don't just walk into the room, snatch the device out of their hands, and walk away. Doing that spikes their stress through the roof. Instead, you replace the device with your presence. Step into the room, get down on their level, like literally sit on the floor beside them. Then, gently initiate a transition using a non-digital activity. Maybe start drawing on a piece of paper, or silently start building with some blocks right next to them. By being a calm, grounding presence during that really difficult transition, you're actively helping their highly stimulated nervous system calm down. You are essentially lending them your calm prefrontal cortex while theirs slowly comes back online.
And this perfectly brings us to dopamine fasting. Now, this isn't about banishing screens forever. It's about establishing clear, predictable boundaries. Step one is creating really consistent windows of screen-free time in your daily routine so the child's brain knows exactly what to expect. Step two is allowing them to actually feel that productive boredom we talked about earlier. Look, there will be whining, for sure. They will absolutely tell you there is nothing to do, but hold the boundary gently, because step three is the payoff. If you just give them the space, you will literally watch them detox from that rapid-fire content and rediscover the profound joy of their own creative thoughts and imaginative play. It's pretty amazing to see. Of course, we have to be real here. None of these boundaries will matter at all if we aren't walking the walk ourselves. There is a very powerful truth to remember. Your child watches your hands way more than they listen to your words. If we tell our kids to get off their tablets, but they constantly see us scrolling on our phones at the dinner table, or while they're actively trying to talk to us, the message is completely lost. On the flip side, if a child sees their parent fully engaged in the physical world, reading a real book, cooking, working on a hobby, or just making genuine eye contact, they'll naturally want to follow suit. We have to actually model the healthy behavior we want to see in them.
So as we wrap up this explainer, let's just return to the core philosophy of Mind Grow Digital, where this insightful approach actually originated. It's simple. Start small, be remarkably consistent, and always lead with empathy. You absolutely possess the power to reclaim their focus and gently guide them back to the physical world. It doesn't require perfection at all. It just requires a willingness to connect. So I want to leave you with this question to really ponder today. How will you take your first small step toward family connection today? Thanks so much for learning with me, and I really encourage you to go ahead and take that step.